The Sea of Galilee was a prime focus of Jesus' ministry, and by Luke's time, catching fish was a sign of Christian mission. The fish, a symbolic, secret code. Illegal to be Christian, it allowed people to subtly identify themselves as followers of Jesus. Now, through the ages, Jewish people identified water and the deep with chaos, as in Noah and the flood. The abyss symbolizing deep water, where people, not knowing how to swim in those days, had to be rescued. Following Jesus' death, the disciples were feeling down, like the losing side of an election, even after the resurrection. Using the Roman name for the Galilee, John's Gospel recounted. It was by the Sea of Tiberias, and it happened like this. Simon Peter, Thomas called the twin, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and two more of his disciples were together. Simon Peter said, "I'm going fishing." They replied, "We'll come with you." They went out and got into the boat, but caught nothing that night. Sound familiar? Almost identical to today's gospel. Remember, Peter, Andrew, and the sons of Zebedee had been partners in the fishing business before they took off with Jesus. So to go fishing reverted back to what they knew, their comfort zone, muscle memory, and all that. John's gospel transformed this early episode, Jesus calling his disciples, into a lovely Easter story. Jesus hosting a cookout over a charcoal fire. Sounds good to me. Roman records from Jesus' time note that more than 200 boats were fishing the lake. Their catch dried and exported all over the Roman world. One negative aspect. Men became fishermen because they had no land, so were not at all respected in their community, and for sure were not educated. Weird that Jesus selected them. But I was reminded of Barbara Harris. By education and job description, she wasn't qualified to be elected the first woman bishop in the history of the church, but she was the right person. I'll never forget at her consecration, Father Washington, who was her mentor, was preaching. He says in his wonderful black southern voice, "Now, people here say that Barbara isn't qualified. But I can tell you, Boniface, he hadn't even been baptized yet." Jesus knew what he was doing too. Now, the Sea of Galilee, imagine this, is 13 miles long, almost 9 miles wide, and 141 feet deep, with 64 miles of water surface area, big enough to be rough in a storm. The three main fish were and are carp, tons of freshwater sardines, but mostly tilapia Galilee, called St. Peter's fish because of Matthew's story that happened on the shore of Capernaum. The collectors of the half shekel came to Peter and said, "Does your master not pay the half shekel temple tax?" "Oh yes," he replied, and went into his mother-in-law's house, which is very close to the synagogue. But before he could speak, Jesus said, "So as not to offend these people, go to the lake and cast a hook. Take the first fish that bites, open its mouth, and there you'll find a shekel. Take it and give it to them for me and for you." Just for fun, one of the kitchen staff will sometimes insert a coin into the mouth of one of those St. Peter's fish. Trouble is, those fish are small and very bony. more like the perch we used to catch on the banks of Mountain Fork River in Oklahoma. Fried, they taste great, precursors of the English fish and chips. But it takes a bunch of them to make a meal and takes forever picking out bits of fish from the bones. But Jesus met them where they were, in their context. Look what he did, remember? Now Jesus was standing one day by the lake of Gennesaret when he caught sight of two boats close to the bank. The fishermen had gone out of them and were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, Simon's, and asked him to shove out a little from the shore. Then he sat down and taught the crowds from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Shove out into deep water and let down your nets for a catch." "Mister," Simon replied, "we worked hard all night long and caught nothing. But if you say so, I'll let down the nets." And when they had done this, they netted such a huge number of fish that their nets began to tear. At the climax of this story, Jesus speaks to Simon, beginning with Luke's favorite saying, "Fear not, don't be afraid. From now on, you'll be catching people." It got me thinking, what abyss is near us where people need rescuing? And what do we in church mean by catching people? As I've said before, I'm not comfortable with that concept. It occurred to me, one abyss nearby involves homeless students at San Jose State. A recent survey found an estimate of 4,000 students who couch surf with friends or sleep in their cars from once a week to an entire semester and through the year. As some of you know, our Canterbury Foundation is in the process of giving approvals by the city of San Jose for us to provide housing for 8 of those students in the lower area of Trinity Cathedral's Parish Hall, placing women students in nearby homes. But we face a major problem. Student suspicion that we're trying to catch them for the church. You're not going to get me to go to church. It takes a lot of time, effort, and trust before the students realize that when our chaplain, the Reverend Deacon Kathy Crow, says there are no strings attached, she really means it. And we've housed students who were Buddhist, Hindu, nothing, and an occasional baptized Christian. Remember what happened in the story? They netted such a huge number of fish that their nets began to tear. So they signaled to their companions in the other boat to come and help them. When they came, they filled the 2 boats to sinking point. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at the knees of Jesus, saying, "Leave me, Lord, I am a sinful man." Likewise, being homeless, the students express a lot of shame. During the intake interview, Kathy will often hear, "I don't want charity." They hate that. She'll tell them, "This is not charity. This is an investment in you." It takes a while. When it finally dawns on them that Kathy really is transparent, with no ulterior motive, no hook, just providing a service for them, real relationship is able to begin. Amazing what happens. There is the work of the Spirit. Those students represent a microcosm describing the suspicion many people feel about the church, especially if a church person shows interest in them. Where's the hook, they feel, even if they don't say it? How can we at St. Luke's counter that suspicion? Jesus' example. meet them, accept them where they are. Notice, Jesus got into their boat, helped them to fish better, entered their world, no strings attached, until they realized his focus was their well-being, to benefit them, not himself. No hidden agenda, no hook. Probably, I'm sure, it took much longer than that one encounter for them to trust Jesus enough to follow him, but they finally did. Let's follow Jesus' pattern. Meeting people, not to fill the pews here, but to offer service, invite their well-being. How can we help? Offering an expansive, fulfilling life for them. No hook. Only then, in trust, transparent, no strings attached, can we say, let's go fishing together.